This is the Flex Network. Flex on everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Flex Network. I'm your host, Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. Today I'm joined, of course, by Mike Dickinson. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike_Dickinson. Mike, what the hell's going on, brother?
What's up, dude? It's Super Bowl week. I'm super stoked. As you know, probably by the beanie I normally wear, I'm an Eagles guy, but my first non-Eagles team and the first non-Eagles team that I rooted for was the 1989 Cincinnati Bengals with Boomer Esiason and Ickey Woods. So I'm stoked. It's been a little bit of I've been slightly super fan biased by Cincinnati this entire way through, but I'm stoked for them. It's Super Bowl week. I'm excited for it.
So I can't remember. At the start of the playoffs, I know you definitely called the Cincinnati Bengals going to the AFC Championship. Did you call them in the Super Bowl? I can't remember.
I did, yeah. I called
you did.
Brandon. Yeah, Brandon was Chiefs 49ers, and I went the opposite way. I went Bengals Rams.
I like that, man. It's gonna be a fun game, dude. It's gonna be a fun game. I don't know if the Bengals are gonna be able to keep up with LA. I mean, LA's defense is I think just too good, just too powerful, and man, they're not going to be like the Chiefs. They're not going to fold and just absolutely do nothing in an entire half of the game. But we talked about it the other day. It's like for my heart, I'm cheering for the Bengals just because it's a cool story. But for my head, I think that the Rams are going to take it down.
Yeah, I think the only thing that kind of gives me pause is the fact that every single person is on the Rams. Like every single person that was on NFL radio and on fantasy radio yesterday was Rams. Some of them are multiple touchdowns. So that's kind of like it feels like those Super Bowls where everybody was on the Patriots and the Giants took them down twice. The Eagles took them down. You know, the Falcons had them on the ropes. So I get it, and I completely understand why you would. You see the mismatches. You see the Rams D line versus the Bengals O line, and this will spoiler. One of my props is based on that kind of matchup. But like it doesn't look like it makes sense. But nothing about this playoff run for these guys has made sense.
No.
And the one thing that I will say is it was 2 years ago when Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase played on the biggest stage you possibly could as college football players and took down a national title. And I'm not saying that a national title game has all the pomp and circumstance of the Super Bowl, but them playing on a national stage like that with all that at stake is much fresher and much more recent in their memory than like a guy like Cooper Kupp has never had to play for that. I don't know if Odell played on one with the Giants. I know Von Miller won one, but there's not a ton of guys on the Rams that have that super recent experience.
No, not really. I mean, the Rams were in the Super Bowl a few years back, but
they were. But who's left? Like Goff is gone. Kupp was there. Woods is injured. OBJ's there. Van Jefferson wasn't drafted then. Akers wasn't on the team. Henderson was on the team, but Gurley was the feature back. Sonny Michel wasn't on that team. Like a lot of those. There's not a ton of guys that were there.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's just, I mean, the coaching staff, obviously Sean McVay was there, and man, the problem with that game against the Patriots was they couldn't freaking score. So yeah. I don't think that's going to be a problem this year. They have a pretty electric offense. Bally, what's going on, brother? We haven't seen you in a little while. Thanks for coming in. He's asking you. He wants to stalk you. What city are you from, Mike?
I am in coastal Delaware, so I live in a town called Lewes, Lewes, the first town in the first state.
There you go. Yeah, man. So today, we got to talk Super Bowl a little bit, right? We'll talk about some of your just general game props, and then maybe we'll do a live slip on the air on a FanDuel slip, or just not FanDuel, excuse me, an Underdog slip. Just because why not? But really, what I care about right now, I mean, look, Super Bowl is here. It's nice. It's exciting. Whatever. It's one game, right? I'm fully in best ball mode. I'm currently in 3 active best balls. I like to do the slow ones on Underdog, and there's some pretty interesting ADPs. And so you Brandon and I were in a group chat together, and I'm constantly asking you guys, what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about that? And let's give the people what they want, right? What the hell do we think about some of those plays? So we'll start the show. We'll go through some of these Super Bowl prop bets. And then we're going to go and talk a little bit about Underdog ADPs, and that's it. We'll call it a show.
Sweet.
So, all right, brother. So, okay. The first thing I do want to talk to you about, though, is do you watch any of these, like the player awards at all? I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers won his second MVP in a row. That's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah. His
Do you
outfit,
think?
his suit was not impressive. His suit
Oh
was.
God, the hair. It's just like, dude, the look he's got going. I just don't get it. Aaron Rodgers. I get you trying to be unique, but I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Now,
but
I generally don't watch those shows. I don't watch
no,
the NFL award shows, Grammys, Oscars, Emmy Awards, none of that stuff.
I mean, the award shows are pretty. I mean, like I'm talking about the NFL award show. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
You go and you get the highlights, but to go and actually watch something like that is pretty boring. But I mean, we talked about it. Joe Burrow was the comeback player of the year. Jamar
Mhm.
Chase was the offensive rookie of the year, which of course, Micah Parsons defensive rookie of the year, all very very deserving, which is pretty crazy. But I gotta. Do you think Jamar Chase is going to be able to keep this up like consistently every year with T Higgins on the team? Like, do you think this is it?
I think his acceptable range of outcomes and his expected range of outcomes over the next 2 to 3 seasons is a top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that team will look to shore up the offensive line to ease up on some of the number of hits that Joe Burrow's taken.
Yeah.
In that'll create more time for him to work, and it'll strengthen the running game, which only is going to strengthen the passing game. So, you know, you look at Zach Taylor's pedigree. He comes out of Sean McVay's offense, so you know he comes kind of from that coaching tree. So the offense is built into his DNA. Like they want to have a high flying, high scoring, productive offense. So I can't say whether or not Jamar Chase is going to get hurt. None of us can say that. But I think that if you're asking me if I think this offense is built to sustain 2 top 10 and possibly 1 top 5 wide receiver for the foreseeable future, I think the answer to that is pretty safely yes.
That's fantastic. I mean, really what it comes down to is like right now, the conversation between the Dynasty 101 at wide receiver is Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. I agree with you. I think it's Jamar Chase. I think it's fantastic. Let's get to some of these props, brother. Okay, so on Underdog, they don't sponsor us, but they are doing a promo right now where if you go on, one of their special prop bets is Joe Burrow over under 1 pass yard. So it's pretty much a gimme, which exactly it's what gets you in, right? It's what gets you in. So I want to get your thoughts on some of these props for the game. So one that I found quite interesting is that it's Cam Akers over under 0.5 rush plus reception TDs. So basically, is Cam Akers going to get in the box? My question to you is, are you over or under that? Do you think Cam's going to score?
I'm under that.
You're under. Oh, interesting. Why is that?
Yeah. I just think that, I mean, they activated Darrell Henderson off IR.
Yep.
His yards per carry has been under 3 through the course of the playoffs. I think the goal line work will go to Sony Michel. I think the Darrell Henderson could eat into his passing work, and I think that they're seeing that they can win without. He's had volume, but he hasn't had production. So I think that they're gonna kind of pivot off that. They'll say, you know what, we got Darrell Henderson, he's back. Michelle has produced for us, and I think they'll kind of ride that hot hand. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if one of those two got going early, and it kind of forced Akers back into the background.
Okay, so I'm just gonna follow Mike here because Mike is you're the MD, Dr. Dick Inson, the man with the plan. I'm going under Cam Akers, 0.5 rushing yards. I kind of hope you're wrong. Actually, you know what? I hope you're right. I hope you're right because I want the luster just a little bit to come off Cam Akers so that he continues to fall in those drafts.
Drop his price a little bit, man.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so with that in mind, then Cam Akers, 16 rush attempts. Over under.
Well, again, if they hadn't activated Henderson, I would probably be pushed over because I think he's been over their last 2 games, hasn't he? Even though his production hasn't been there, the volume's been there. So I think Henderson coming back, I'm going to push under on that as well.
Baby, we're going under. Damn, crazy.
It's not fun bet. It's not fun.
No, it's not a fun bet. Let's move on to some of these fun bets, okay? Cooper Kupp, his 8.5 receptions, over or under that? I think that one's got to be an over, right?
That's got to be over. He's going up against Eli Apple. That's an over. Yeah.
Okay. So Cooper Kupp, 108.5 reception yards. That's one I'm not going to play because that's just too close. To me, that's too close.
honestly, I think a lot of these, like listening to the radio and hearing the analysts that actually get paid and know what they're doing talk about this stuff. A lot of these are right on. Like I think that the Cam Akers rushing yards prop, I think that if it's still at 63.5, that's definitely one to take the under on. But the Cooper Kupp one feels close to me.
Do you
close
like
enough that I don't feel comfortable hedging one way or the other?
Fair enough. Do you like the Cam Akers 63.5 over under better than the touchdown under? Or do you like the touchdown under better?
I like the rushing yard better than the touchdown better.
That one, because apparently I can only play. Here we go. I gotta get rid of this puppy. All right, I'm gonna do this one. Apparently I can only play one of each, so I'm gonna do that. The 63.5 rush yards under. Boom. All right. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the Bengals. All right. So Joe Burrow, 35.5 pass attempts over under.
I think that's about right. That's a little too close for me to feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet that one either. All right. Okay. Joe Burrow, 288.5 total yards. I think that's a pretty safe under. But all it takes is a couple long completions to Jamar, and it's like, that's it, you're done.
Yeah, I think I might stay away from that one.
All right. Okay, let's move. Okay, this is good. This is good. I mean, if it's too damn close, and these are the things that gamers are going to want to avoid, man. Joe Mixon, 16.5 rush attempts. I would probably take the under in that as well.
Yeah, I think what's he done for the course of the playoffs?
Not much, man, because they keep getting away from the game plan.
Yeah, and I think too that you're going to see him stay in pass pro, and even if it's just to be a 6th or 7th blocker, I don't think you're going to see a ton of production out of the tight ends. I don't know. Uzomah sounds like he's going to play, but honestly, you could see a lot of 12 personnel. If they're in 12, then that's fine. That could push Mixon's way, but I mean they could go in 12. They could go in 12 with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and they want to air it out. So I think I'm under on both of the Mixon, under on the yards and under on the carries.
Okay, this is the money one. Jamar Chase. This seems low. Damn, 84.5 rush plus reception yards. That one's interesting.
What's T. Higgins?
73 reception yards.
I feel better about T. Higgins than Jamar Chase.
Over or under?
Over.
Okay, so I'm gonna take that one over 73.5. Okay, so I'm gonna do a 10 times payout. Here we go.
So you think? I mean, my rationale is that Higgins is not going to see Ramsey as much. So if you think Ramsey's going to be on Chase, then you take Higgins. If you think Ramsey's going to play a side and they're going to be able to scheme Chase away from Ramsey, then you take Chase. If based off of how I'm playing it, I think that it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be in the 24-21, 27-24, somewhere in that neighborhood, which means Cincinnati's probably going to have to throw to keep pace, which means two of those guys are going to go, whether it's Chase and Higgins, whether it's Higgins and Boyd, all depends on what you think is going to happen with Jalen Ramsey.
I think that he's going to shout at Jamar. I mean, look, it's going to be tough. I mean, you've got two alphas, but I think it makes the most sense. You shut down Jamar and you pray for the best with T. So this is what I'm going to do, okay? So we got to Joe Burrow, 1 pass yard. That's an obvious over. Cooper Kupp, 8.5 receptions. I'm taking the over on that. Cam Akers, 63.5 rush yards. I'm taking the under on that. And then T. Higgins, 73.5 reception yards. I'm taking the over. I'm putting down $10 to win 100. I'm submitting.
Nice.
And maybe let's go. All right. So that's it for the props.
There were two other props that I saw that were goofy, that weren't strictly player related, that were game related. Oh, yeah. The first one that I saw was over under 5 sacks. I like the over on that. I think that
total for the game.
Total for the game, yeah.
I think Joe Burrow's going to get sacked 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, looking back at the divisional game where they played Tampa, there were 5 sacks in that game, and I think that Cincinnati's offensive line is slightly worse than Tampa Bay's offensive line. So
Yeah.
So I think that that's a safe play. The other one that I saw that was really cool was over 2.5 unique players to throw a pass, and I kind of like the over on that.
Oh, interesting. So that's basically you get the 2 quarterbacks, obviously. So it's just anybody else going to throw a pass. Odell's going to throw a pass. You can pretty much guarantee
that was my thinking. Odell's going to throw a
Yeah.
pass, and then it also gives you a hedge. You know, does Stafford break a shoelace? Does Joe Burrow get a cramp?
Ooh.
And anything like that. So I see a lot of
Yeah.
ways where that kind of pays. So
Nice.
yeah, I liked that one too,
That's
especially
awesome.
with the way that Odell passes.
And yeah, he's accurate. He had that long one to Cam in his first or second game back, I want to say. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So Bally's just to go back to the previous conversation, Bally did grow up an Eagles fan. He's from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, in South Florida now. Okay. Love it.
My
South
family is
Florida.
originally Delaware County, which is southeastern Pennsylvania. So right there, other side of the bridge from Bali.
There you go. And then Bally's saying Russell Wilson to the Eagles. Like, I don't buy it. I just don't see the Eagles giving up that much draft capital for an aging veteran who, look, love Russ, but I just don't see it happening. That's just not how you win in the NFL.
Yeah.
I guess don't tell it to the Rams, but
yeah. They said Harry Roseman came out and said that he thought that Hurts had earned the right to be the QB1 going into 22, which coming from Roseman means absolutely nothing. But I think there's probably something to it. I think they want to probably try and build around him.
I mean, it makes
not?
sense. They have the 3 first-round picks. Just give the guy a chance, man. Just give the guy a chance. Which this is a perfect segue to go into an underdog pick. So I'm gonna rock this. So let's talk about underdog ADPs. Okay, so before we get into this, Mike, I know we've talked about it at length, but let's talk about a little bit of strategy this year. You're going to be approaching your drafts. Now, granted, the state you live in, unfortunately, doesn't allow sports betting like this, which is cockamamie, frankly. But
fortunately, though, Sleeper has loaded in all of their 2022 rookies, and they have best balls live. So a lot of the leagues that I'm in, a lot of the group chats, guys are starting up best ball drafts now. So that's a big plus to big props to Sleeper for that.
Yeah, no, of course.
Again, not a sponsor. Maybe they will be.
Man, we've been trying to get Sleeper to sponsor our damn show since they friggin' came out. But Sleeper, if you're listening, come give us a shout. Hit us up for some business opportunities. Okay, so I think because we're talking about Jalen Hurts, let's talk about the quarterbacks first. Okay, so traditional quarterbacks, 1 QB league. No surprise, Josh Allen is going as the first quarterback off the board. And it's same thing every single year. It's right around that 2-3 turn. So his ADP right now is pick 3.2. And then so you got your top quarterbacks with Josh Allen, no surprise, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and then Lamar Jackson. So the 5th quarterback off the board, in my humble opinion, is a little bit egregious. He's going at pick 5.8. He's in a Super Bowl. His name is Joe Burrow. Mike, don't you think it's an absolute mistake that Joe Burrow is going to be going as the QB5 off the board when last year alone, Joe Burrow finished as a QB10, and Cincinnati is still one of the slowest pace, surprisingly, one of the slowest pace of play leagues or teams in the league. Like, do you see this changing much next year after what's worked?
I think that and we'll see this when we get to the wide receivers, there is a ton of recency bias in these early drafts. So they see the way that Burrow is lighting it up and they say, that's my guy. He's going to continue to light it up. I think that if there's logic to this only in that if you believe that he came back early from his ACL and he wasn't playing at 100% in the first, say 6 games of the season, the back half of his season has been electric. So what you're betting on taking him at wide receiver 5, because he doesn't have the rushing upside that Jalen Hurts, as much as it pains me to say it, Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson do. And even somebody like Trey Lance, like he doesn't have the rushing up. Brandon, I hope to God you're not listening to this podcast, talking about your boys. But anyway, he doesn't have that rushing upside. So you're betting on him producing with his arm for all 17 games. That said, you saw Tom Brady do it this year. Is Joe Burrow Tom Brady? Absolutely not. Could he get there and could he produce at a level similar to that if Cincinnati doesn't really take effective steps in addressing their defense? It's a solid maybe. So while I can see it, I think there's more recency bias baked in than anything else. So I think top 10, he should be top 10. 5 might be a little bit too high.
And round 5, like the opportunity cost there is just absolutely insane to me.
Well, that's the other thing is how early these quarterbacks are going. Like even in that, I get that like best ball has all sorts of stats, win rates based off roster construction. So teams that build 2 quarterbacks, and I'm just throwing arbitrary numbers out here. Like there's all sorts of stats you can find: 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 7 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. Statistically wins more than a different team makeup. So like, yeah, you want to get your 2 or 3 quarterbacks, but like 5 quarterbacks, 6 quarterbacks going in the first 5 rounds is egregious. Like you're leaving so much talent on the board unnecessarily.
Well, and especially when you look at, okay, round 8, you can get Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford are all going round 8. Round 9, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Round 10, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, and that's really where it falls off after that. But if you're, in these single-digit rounds, you can wait and get some really elite talent because trust me, round 6, round 7, round 8, that's really when the skill positions do start to dry up. And that's when you want to pivot to your quarterback position. You don't want to be taking, look, Josh Allen's good, but do you really want to be taking Josh Allen in round 3 at the start of round 3? To me, that doesn't make any sense. I think it's egregious. And just to go back to your previous point, Mike, you're right. Joe Burrow is not Tom Brady, okay? If you look at the popular sports media, he's better than Tom Brady. He's the best there ever is, the best there ever was, the best there ever will be. That is Joey Burrow. So, yeah, recency bias is real, people. Okay, so I don't want to dwell too much on this, but a few of the players that I do like, of course, Jalen Hurts. I'm always going to go back to my guy. And yes, Bally, I get it. Jalen Hurts can't throw. Okay, fine. He's going as the QB 10 again, and he's going in the middle of the 8th round. To me, like that's all day, every day. I'm going to wait and grab Jalen Hurts in the middle of the 8th round. To me, that's automatic. If you fade quarterback and you just pretty much go to the double-digit rounds, Mike, and or you're going for your upside, your second quarterback, you want to go upside. A guy that I think could have some pretty decent upside in the range. Okay, so let's look at rounds 12, 13, and 15. Okay, there's guys like Ryan Tannehill, maybe Tua, Mac Jones. The guy that I like though in round 13 for the value is Zach Wilson. Yeah. I mean, the narrative coming out of college, the reason he was drafted so damn high is because he had that rushing upside. He could do it with his legs. I'm not a Zach Wilson truther by any stretch of the imagination, but for my QB2, I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Jets go and get another wide receiver this year. Denzel Mims is not for real. Unfortunately, he's been one of the biggest busts of busts right now. That one hurts, right? But yeah, you got Elijah Moore, you got Michael Carter who can catch the ball, which means fantasy points for the quarterback. And I guess he can throw. So, how do you feel about Zach Wilson as your QB2 in the 13th round?
I'm fine with it. I think, and this might be gross to say, but I almost think that I would rather have Tua as my QB2 a round earlier. I mean, you're talking QB 19, QB 20, both of them, QB 20, QB 21 right around there. So it's not like we're arguing top 5.
We're arguing the back end of QB2s, essentially.
Yeah. So I think that looking at what McDaniel did with Jimmy G, who has carried that team to victory, quote unquote, carried that team to victory. Yeah. He is not as talented a passer as Tua is. I think that you're going to see McDaniel do a lot of stuff. He's going to figure out ways to do good things with the talent that's around Tua. And I think that, we're going to kind of see why tank for Tua was a thing. No one ever tanked for Jimmy G, but people were tanking for Tua.
Yeah, dude. I think that, I don't hate that. What about Mac Jones, who's sandwiched right between those two players? To me, I just don't think there's any upside with Mac Jones. Like they don't have a lot of yak wide receivers on the team. Like he's just okay.
I mean, are you getting vanilla when you got Rocky Road right there? I mean, you got
exactly. Yes.
Tua has the upside. They're going to protect Mac Jones. Bill Belichick has zero qualms about throwing 3 times in a game to try and win, and running 444 times in a single game. So like it, I get it. And I can see the play. Like, I think that Mac Jones is a fine QB2, but when you're talking about Mac Jones sandwiched in between Tua and Zach Wilson, again, only a half a round higher. Give me Tua.
Two last questions for you, okay? Now, I know you haven't dove too deep into the rookies. This year,
I'm getting there.
The first rookie quarterback coming off the board in these drafts in round 15-10 to be exact. So pretty much like there's only 20 rounds in these best balls. So this is like the bottom of the barrel. It's Malik Willis.
I saw that, yeah.
Quarterback off the board. That one to me is interesting. Now, here's the thing with Malik Willis. I'm on record of saying I don't think he's a starter in year one. Okay. So depending on the team that he goes to, if he gets drafted to a team like, I don't know, say the Steelers, there is a real possibility he could start. But if he goes ahead of the Steelers, they don't trade up because they're at pick 20, and he goes to a team where he has an opportunity to sit on the bench for a year and learn, which I think is what he needs. It's not the worst pick for an upside, but I think that's kind of a trap. I mean, look, round 15 is all upside at that point. So if you take the pick, I don't hate it. But I mean, we saw some of the rookies going last year right around round 10 or 11. So if you think that people were taking chances on Justin Fields last year, on Trey Lance last year, around 10, 11, I think in round 15, it's a decent upside play. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Where's Pickett going? I'm straight analog. I got paper
he's round 18.
That's what I'm looking at. Yeah,
he's going round 18. He's basically like a QB 29. You would go Kenny Pickett.
I think if I'm taking a flyer on, and again, this all depends on his pro day and his combine and everything like that. But just based off of, I really thought that there would be more stink on him coming out of the Senior Bowl about how he performed on Wednesday, but it didn't seem like there was. I think the consensus was that Wednesday was a bad weather day and everybody performed poorly. So the hand thing might not be an issue. It might be. It might not be an issue. But for somebody.
Here's the thing about that, okay? There were some, like Desmond Ritter performed pretty well. Now, we know how I feel about Desmond Ritter. I think he's not a round one talent, but Desmond Ritter did perform well. He's got 10-inch hands, which is insane. And Malik Willis had a good practice on Wednesday. So it wasn't that all the players played shitty. It was the guy who allegedly, because he didn't get his hands measured, has 8 1/4 inch hands, which for those of you watching at home, no quarterback has started in the NFL in the last 10 years with hands smaller than 9 inches. So he would be an outlier. And if he goes to an outdoor team, man, that's going to be a problem. We saw it with Jameis Winston. He was electric, throwing, 30, 35 odd touchdowns, but he also had that many interceptions. And he lost his starting job. If a quarterback turns the ball over, which there is serious risk of fumbling, look at Jared Goff, right, with small hands, it's a problem. So I'm just throwing it out there that to me, it's too risky. But he had a great Tuesday and Thursday practice, and he was perfect in the game. So he wins games. That one to me is tough. But let's move on. Let's talk about the sexy players, okay? And all right. Ooh. So you have officially, Mike, taken over the reign of the wet blanket on the show, with Alan no longer recording regularly with us. Okay.
The worst part is Alan and I line up pretty similarly on our takes and stuff. Like I'll be arguing with you and Brandon in the group chat, and I'll text Alan on the side and be like, "What do you think?" And he usually lines
bang on, of course, absolutely. I mean, and this is perfect, actually. This is lining up perfect because just on Twitter this morning, as I was scrolling, I saw Al giving people shit about taking Christian McCaffrey at 1.2 overall. Actually, one guy's hot take was that if you're not taking Christian McCaffrey 101 in your drafts, you're doing it wrong. Al obviously was against that. I'm against that. Christian McCaffrey, ladies and gentlemen, is your ADP of 1.2, which means Jonathan Taylor's going off the board, and then in more drafts than not, Christian McCaffrey is going off the board at pick 1.2. I mean, we're beating this take to death, Mike, but we got to talk about it again. Tell me why that's a mistake for people.
So I think there's 2 reasons that I think it's a mistake. So either you are saying that he's going to stay healthy for all 17 games. I don't think that that's true.
He hasn't done it
If
for
you
2 years.
think he hasn't done it for 2 years, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. If you think he's going to stay healthy for all 17 games, the only path forward I see to that is them decreasing his workload. So I think he's going to have to go from a 300 touch a season guy or 330 down to 170, 180. So even if he performs at the same level, even if he's still putting up, 30, so say he scales back. He scales back to 67%, 2/3 of his workload. He goes from 27 points a game back down to 18 points a game. That's fine. Let me do some quick math here. So he gets you 18 points a game over 17 games. That's 300 points. That'll do it. I don't see that as being the realistic range of outcomes. I think they scale his workload back, and I think he still gets dinged up. So he played 7 games this year. He averaged a decent number of points in those games, but I just don't see
18.2 games average per game.
Yeah. And that was this year with that full workload. So yes, he has 30 points as his ceiling. He's probably one of the only people in the NFL, quarterbacks included, who you can count on games where he's going to get a full workload, will get you 30 points. I just don't think it is responsible for Carolina to give him that full workload. So unless they're just going to ride him through the end of this contract, but he's not on the field. Him being on the field presents more mismatch issues and presents more schematic issues for defenses than him being on the sideline. So even if he's not going to get the ball, even if he's a decoy, you still have to account for him because of how explosive he is. So
of course, I
think the path forward is 16 touches a game and 14 points a game, which is fine, but it's not 1.2. Not when you have Cooper Kupp up there, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. Not when those guys are going around him. Like, I think that he's for me, he's more of a mid-tier. He's a back end 1, high end 2.
So this is really a conversation. This is really a question, I should say, about DeAndre Swift, right? Isn't that what this question is? Would you rather take Christian McCaffrey at 1.2 or DeAndre Swift going at 2.6? We talked about it a month ago, I want to say, and I said I think that Christian McCaffrey should be valued right around the mid to late second round, so right where DeAndre Swift is going. You compare their profiles, you compare their potential rushing work, not in the passing game, right? They both received close to 6 targets per game in the air, so that to me I think that's going to continue for CMC. But last year, we saw that DeAndre Swift had, as I pull it up here, he had only 11.6 carries per game versus CMC's 14 carries per game. I think that 11 carries per game with 6 targets is pretty realistic for Christian McCaffrey, right? It's right around that 15, 16 touches / targets per game. I think that's realistic. And if you're getting Christian McCaffrey in the middle of the second round, boom, I'm on board, man. I'm on board. But as the 1.2, it's egregious. And so I mentioned I'm in 3 drafts. In my 3 drafts, he went 1.2, 1.3, 1.4.
Good Lord.
Drafts. So, yeah, I know. It's insane. But look.
These early drafts are soft. The rooms are soft.
But you know what's crazy, Mike? Is that typically it's the Sharks, right, that are trying to get in early. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case. So that I found that interesting. Javonte Williams is going as the 2.1. RB7 off the board. Look. I love Javonte Williams. I think it goes without question. Like, the fantasy community, we love Javonte Williams, right? The question becomes, what is his usage going to be? Is it going to be a timeshare? Is it going to be a 50-50 split with whether it's Melvin Gordon or another insert running back here? Do you really think that Javonte Williams, who has never had a full workload in his entire career, right? At UNC, he had Michael Carter. It was pretty much a 50-50 split there. And it works for this guy, right? When Javonte's on the field, every touch is electric. Do you really think the Broncos coaching staff is going to come in and say, you know what, Javonte, you've never done it before, but we like your talent. We're going to give you 80% of the touches, and we're just going to bring a Jag in as your backup. Do you think that's realistic? Because that's what it's going to require to get the value at 2.1 or at the 1-2 turn, because he's obviously going earlier at the average.
So I don't know that this is about him as much as it's about the guys that are back behind him. And I think that what you're hedging on DeAndre Swift is, to me, it makes sense to take DeAndre Swift ahead of him. I would be comfortable with that. But, I mean, you got Nick Chubb and Alvin Kamara right back there. We know that New Orleans is going to be a hot mess, and we know that Chubb, for right now, is in a straight-up timeshare with Kareem Hunt. So, as of right now, the sticky thing is Javonte Williams is still in that timeshare. We don't know what's going to happen with Melvin Gordon. He could come back. He could not come back. This is a new coaching staff and a new GM that didn't bring the GM was last year, but they didn't bring Melvin Gordon in. They inherited him. So do they let him ride? Do they let him ride off into the sunset and go somewhere like Buffalo where he could be, play a more prominent role? Maybe. I don't know. I think that what drafters are hedging on right now is Gordon walking and the coaching staff giving Javonte, 2/3 to 3/4 of the workload.
I want to see it. Look, I have a ton of Javonte Williams in Dynasty, so I really want that to happen. I was drafting him. He was going, end of the first round last year in Superflex leagues, running around to 110, 111. And great value. So I hope it happens, but I'm not willing to pay a 2.1 overall pick when you've got guys like Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb. Alvin Kamara is probably going to miss some games, maybe a couple games based off what happened in Vegas, but I don't know. The upside's still there. Or wait, Antonio Gibson is going at the 3.1. Cam Akers 3.3. Like, those are guys that I'd much rather go for. Even early second round, I would be willing to pay up for those guys. I think that's interesting.
With where these ADPs are going, you could realistically start Najee Harris and AJ Brown as your RB1 and wide receiver 1. And that's not sick. Bad. Like that is sick. Yeah. I like that. I like that almost more than going, so if you're with where he's going, a lot of these folks are taking, starting Devontae and Javonte or Debo and Javonte, which is fine, but I would rather go. I think in that situation, I would probably go with if you're going to take a wide receiver there. I like Devontae or Debo, but I might leapfrog Javonte for a DeAndre Swift or somebody like that, or just take another wide receiver and then wait until the 3-4 turn.
Okay, I'm going to talk about some of these guys that I think are decent values. I mean, so traditionally we talk about the quote dead zone running back. That's usually around 3.5 to like round 7. That's considered the dead zone. But there's actually a few dead zone quote running backs that I like. So Cam Akers, he's right around that cusp at 3.3. I love Cam Akers at that spot. But Elijah Mitchell is going at 5.1, and my boy, man I love.
That's insane.
Yeah, Travis Etienne is going at 5.3. Travis Etienne is DeAndre Swift. They're the same person. I think that's insane upside. Now, obviously, I did a tweet, or I guess like a TikTok on Travis Etienne a little while back, and there's obviously some question marks there, right? Like, we know James Robinson's good, but he got hurt at the end of last year. It's a new coaching staff. Doug Peterson hates running backs. So is he going to go and deploy Travis Etienne like the first round talent that he was drafted as, or is he going to do more with timeshare? I mean, we know historically you're an Eagles fan, so it's mind numbing when they've got some solid running backs that just aren't getting the touches. But Travis Etienne at 5.3, Michael Carter at 6.3, Leonard Fournette at 7.4, and then way at the end 9.5, Isaiah Spiller, rookie. First of all, how do you feel about some of those players at those spots?
Don't forget Josh Jacobs at 5.8 in there.
Oh, Josh Jacobs at 5.9. Damn, I like that.
Yeah, and then also
so look at the sweet spot, man. Okay, round
Zeke
5,
at 5.8 Zeke at 4.8 as well.
Okay, I had that on my question mark for you. Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay, so we got Zeke at 4.8, Elijah Mitchell at 5.1, Travis Etienne at 5.3. Josh Jacobs at 5.9, and then rookie phenom Breece Hall at 5.12. Last year, some of these top, like Najee Harris, was going in the mid-third round, which in hindsight was actually was worth it. But Breece Hall 5.12. Round 5 seems like a nice little spot for running backs, man.
Yeah, yeah. I think that my build this year, and honestly, there'll probably be a lot of sharp drafters that are on this. Is I'm going to go workhorse RB early. So like if I can give me an Eckler, give me a JT, give me a Najee Harris, give me the locked in guaranteed volume. And then what I'll probably load up wide receiver behind that. So I'll I'll go, wide receiver round 2, wide receiver round 3, probably wide receiver in 4, and then come back and hit running back in 5. I think I'm going to be living in the RB dead zone this year just because the value makes sense.
Man, you can go and you can get like an Elijah Mitchell, Travis Etienne, or Josh Jacobs in round 5. Come back, get Michael Carter, Leonard Fournette, round 6, round 7. Like, I don't hate that. And here's the thing. The reason I like to do these drafts so early is because I like to get a feel about, okay, if I go one way, which way do I like? So I've done 2 balanced teams so far and then 1 RB heavy team. How do you feel about this? Okay. So I went, I had the 101. So I went JT at 101. And then at the 2-3 turn, I could not resist going Antonio Gibson, Cam Akers. So I tripled up on the running back, thinking, okay, I'm still going to be able to get a decent wide receiver coming around the 4 or 5 turn. The problem is that when I got there, I found that, like, the player that I wanted the most was Travis Etienne. But if you're drafting 4 straight running backs, that's automatically suboptimal because only 3 of those running backs can actually cash every single week for you. So at that point, I pivoted and I went Tyler Lockett, which I don't know. I feel like he could have blow up games. And then I went Chris Godwin because Chris Godwin, he had the ACL, but he should, in theory, be ready for week 1 of the NFL season. So there's some risk there. And I don't love it. I don't love that build now. I love how I started with the 3 running backs, but I don't love that build. So should I have gone, Mike, maybe either Cam Akers or Antonio Gibson, pick your poison, and then maybe go like a Deontay Johnson, a T. Higgins, one of those players going right around those 2-3 turn, or even I could go and I could have drafted a tight end. Let's see here. I'm just checking here where Mark Andrews is going is at 211. Okay. So I might not have had him, but Kyle Pitts would have been available. I could have gone, what would you have preferred? I've been doing a lot of talking here. What do you think? I think I made a mistake, right? And that's why I do these things to learn. There's still lots of drafting. You can still go get wide receivers, but what do you think about that? Could you pass up those running backs?
I don't think that you can. And I had a draft where I ended up with my 3 of my first 4. Was it 3 of my first 4? 3 of my first 5 because it was super flex. I ended up with Dalvin Cook, Antonio Gibson, and I took Javonte Williams a little bit earlier. And I didn't like the way that team came out, but I think if I had to go and do it again, I would probably do it again because the value was suggesting that was the way to go. Like and a lot of times in dynasty startups, I'm loading wide receiver when other people are loading up running back and tight end. I'll load running back when everybody else is loading wide receiver. So if the board presents itself to you that way, like figure it out on the back end. There's PPR guys that you can fill back in with that will be able to fill out a week for you. So like what Jacoby Myers is going 135. Braxton Berrios, where he's probably going, I think he's going in like the mid to late teen rounds. I think that you look at guys that can fill in, and what you're looking for those guys is 8, 10, 12 point weeks. That's completely doable when these guys are getting 6, 7, 8 targets a week. Like I think 1 week Braxton Berrios had like 9 catches for 26 yards, which is still 11.6 points, but like that gets you comfortably in the wide receiver 2 flex range. So, and if you have your blow up weeks from these, if you have 3 RB1s on your team, like 3 guys that can be in the RB1 conversation week in and week out, I think it makes you a really tough team to take down, especially when you don't have to set a lineup. All you need those guys to do is just produce points. So I'm not going to say it was the wrong move because I think that the whether or not it's the wrong move is yet to be determined based off how you build out the back end of your roster. Are there pivots you could have made? 100% there's pivots you could have made. But I think that it's as long as you build out the back end the right way and what you're going to end up having to do is taking safer wide receivers when you want to take shots on rookies. And that's where it's going to end up going. Like you would probably love to take a shot on a Kenneth Walker, but you're probably going to have to take somebody like a Jacoby Myers or somebody like that who has a baked in floor rather than the ceiling because you took your ceiling early.
Okay, I like that. So there you go. See, I haven't had my next picks yet, so there's still time to go and figure out my roster on that one. But I couldn't pass it up. Jacoby Myers, I have on 2 out of my 3 teams, which means on those 2 other teams, I got Jacoby. He's going at 10.8. I mean, we've talked about it at length. We're not going to talk about it again today, but he's basically Hunter Renfrow without the touchdowns. So you get 6-7 touchdowns in a season, he's going to totally outlive his ADP. or outperform his ADP. So let's talk about the wide receivers then. Cooper Kupp is, of course, going as the top wide receiver off the board, followed by Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. The first round is interesting. It's 6 running backs and 6 wide receivers, okay? So I'm not going to talk about that. To me, the first 2 rounds, I don't really have an issue with any of those ADPs. Round 3, though, the first wide receiver off the board is Jalen Waddle. And, man, I got burned by Brandon Ayuk in 2021 because I thought, okay, this guy is for real. And I still like Brandon Ayuk, right? But this year, his ADP is closer to his ADP is 610, which is, I think, a much nicer spot than what it was last year. But Jalen Waddle going in at 3.4 as a wide receiver 11 off the board, to me, that's high.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the guys that are back there behind him, and there's a ton of uncertainty. So the guys that are behind him, wide receivers, you got DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, and Calvin Ridley. Those are the guys going back behind him. Yeah. Honestly, I might take. I kind of prefer DJ Moore over Jalen Waddle, and that's a little hot takey, but yeah. DJ Moore is only 24 years old. The guy is posted with terrible quarterbacks, and you think the one thing that Carolina has to get right this offseason is their quarterback, or Matt Rule's on the hot seat. So I would tend to believe that, that David Tepper and Matt Rule would kind of get that figured out. And if you think that, then you buy the bounce on DJ Moore.
Dude, okay, so DJ Moore is going at 4.5, so a full round after Jalen Waddle. I love that. Yeah. Give me a round of value there.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Just close your eyes and think of the first month of the 2021 season. DJ Moore was lighting the NFL on fire because Sam Darnold was actually producing as a quarterback. We're like, holy shit! Yeah. Like, is Sam Darnold good? Is he good? He wasn't.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, he wasn't.
He was not.
No, yeah. Sorry, Brandon. Earmuffs, brother. We just got to tell Brandon, just don't listen to this show. We're just going to shit on all of his favorite players. But
just
I would say,
so we get the clout. Don't listen.
Yeah, exactly. Man, can Carolina just get a damn quarterback? Because when he had a semi-competent quarterback, DJ Moore was on fire. He was like the top 3 wide receiver in the first month of the season because he was actually getting some touchdowns. The man doesn't score touchdowns. I think he had, 4 on the season after all was said and done, which is just atrocious. Just atrocious. And it's just an embarrassment, frankly. Get your shit together, Carolina. Anyways.
And he's only 24, which is only impossible because he's been in the league for 15 years, but he's only 24.
I like DeAndre Hopkins going to 3.7. I think that's a screaming value. I mean, people talk about recency bias, man. And look, you're notably down on Kyler this year. His ADP, by the way, is the quarterback 6. I think you have him as your 7th ranked quarterback. So, I mean, maybe Mike knows what the hell he's doing. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. Although Joey B, he ain't supposed to be QB 5. Anyways, okay. I like DeAndre Hopkins, middle of 3rd round.
I like Hopkins more as a 2 than a 1. I feel more comfortable
in the 3rd round. He's a 2, man. He's going as a wide receiver 13. That makes him a wide receiver 2.
Well, so I think this depends on your build. So if you, and I did this in a league and it ended up biting me. But so you could theoretically go with where these ADPs are taking you right now. You could end up with
Jefferson's the 1.7. You got the 3.7 coming back with DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, so you could take Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Swift, DeAndre Hopkins. That's not a bad start. I would take that.
I would love that start. Or if you want to go running back in the 1st round, you can go with Najee Harris at 1.8. Come back, get Stephon Diggs or AJ Brown, then come back and get Hop. Like, that's not so bad, man.
You could also go Najee, Diggs, Hop, DJ Moore, and then Josh Jacobs or somebody like that. Like there's a bunch of sexy builds in there. So I like it. It all depends on how you're going to do it.
Yeah, one of the things we tweeted out when I went over on a show last year, Mike, was kind of like the first 5 rounds building at each spot. So I sent out like a link to just like a Google sheet that I prepared, and if you draft it at pick 1, here's a nice little build for you based on ADPs. Pick 2, et cetera, et cetera. So I did that last year, and I think we'll do that again probably around maybe mid-July, August for redraft season. But I think that it's really good to go out and build these scenarios in your brain, because depending on where you're picking from, you can get a strategy early. Like, you know that, okay, I can go wide receiver in the first round because I'm going to get these 2 or 3 running backs within this, range of outcomes in round 3, round 4, round 5. I think that's so important to go through the narratives in your head. But okay, I want to finish the conversation here on wide receiver. And then we'll talk very quickly about tight end, and then we'll call it a show. I mean, we said we were going to do 30 minutes. We're now on 50 minutes. It's fantastic. I think, okay.
I blame myself.
It's all, I love it. Man, we're doing good here. Okay. So I like Amari Cooper at pick 4.9, and then Elijah Moore at 4.12, and then Tyler Lockett at 4.10 is about right. So end of the 4th round. First of all, do you think Amari Cooper's got one season left in him, or do you think he's gone? He's out. That's it. He's on the decline.
No, I think he has one season left. Dak loves Amari Cooper.
I think so.
Gallup's the guy that's gone.
Well, and the thing too is that in one draft where I drafted Amari Cooper, I ended up getting Dak Prescott a couple rounds later to get that stack.
Oh,
that's a nice cheap stack. Last year you were paying up for that stack. This year it's far more affordable. Elijah Moore at 4.12, man. So we talked at the very start of the show. Zach Wilson is an upside wide receiver or upside quarterback in round, what was it, 13? If you can go Elijah Moore and then as your QB2 go Zach Wilson, I think that's a smart play, because chances are if Elijah Moore has the season that we think he can have, Zach Wilson's going to have a pretty decent season as well. So I do think that's a fair price for Elijah.
He was neck and neck with Amon-Ra St. Brown before he went out he ended the season on IR. I guess it was either hamstring or COVID or something, or maybe both. Like he got hit hard, but I think that's in the back of the 4th round. I like that.
Well, okay. So Elijah Moore 4.12 or is going on. Yeah. So they're back to back. Elijah Moore's going up to 4.12. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going up to 5.2. I think that's early for Amon-Ra. Same thing. You're paying for that volume. So like we agree then, right? Like the right choice here is Elijah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We have to talk about this. Okay. Gabriel Davis going at the 6.9. That's egregious, right? Do we need to read off the stats again? We read them off on Tuesday.
No,
do we need to read off the stats again for Gabriel Davis and why it's a mistake?
Yeah. No, we don't. No, we don't have to. We don't need to read. We don't need to read. It is a mistake, and again, that's that recency bias built in. He's going ahead of Odell Beckham. He's going ahead of Jerry Jeudy. He's going ahead of Robert Woods. He's going ahead of
Tony, Rashad Bateman, Claypool.
Yeah. Like it's just. I get it. You want to draft him, but you don't have to. Obviously, you do have to draft him that early. But if that's where he's going, I'm not going to have a lot of them, unfortunately.
I'm going to have zero Gabriel Davis this year. Zero.
I have a lot of them because I picked him up off the scrap heap in the offseason before his rookie year. That's Dynasty, why I have a lot of them. Yeah, in Dynasty, absolutely, but not at 6 rounds. Jesus.
I got him last year on one of my teams. I acquired him for the 3.1. And this year he's going for like the 1.7, 1.8. I've seen people talk about draft. Like that's just insane to me.
Dude, I would sell that all day.
If you have Gabriel Davis, people just go out there and like test the water, see what you can get for him, because I guarantee you it's going to be better than what he's worth. Okay. Last but not least, let's talk about tight end. Okay. So last year, Travis Kelce was pretty firmly at like the 1.6, 1.7. This year he's going at 2.3 as the first tight end off the board. Mm-hmm. Then you got Mark Andrews at 2.11. Kyle Pitts at 3.6, George Kittle 3.11, and Darren Waller 3.12. Are there any guys there that you're okay going and drafting and spending that draft capital on early?
No, I mock all the time taking tight end early, and I always hate how my team comes out.
Yeah,
I mock against algorithms. I mock against actual human beings. I mock against guys I know. I mock against guys and girls I don't know. And I never like how my team comes out. And regardless of what I do, I always end up streaming tight end. I'll take my first tight end usually in round 9, somewhere around there. And it starts to get, even if you jump a little bit earlier, where did I see Dallas Goedert was going? Dallas Goedert's going in the 7th. Like, I mean, he's that guy's gonna put up numbers. So you get down into the double-digit rounds. You get Gesicki in round 10. You get Zach Ertz in round 10. Round
10 is where they go off the board. In round 10, you got Freiermuth, Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki, and Zach Ertz all going around 10. The guy that I love, and I put a nice little TikTok out on this guy too. I like Cole Kmet at round 12, 12.1.
Yeah,
and as long as Jimmy Graham isn't there to hog all those touchdowns. If Cole Kmet goes out and he finishes like, I want to say the tight end 12. So he was just on the back end of his tight end 1, and he had like 2 touchdowns last year. If he can get 5 or 6 touchdowns, and then just again, Justin Fields takes another step forward, I think Cole Kmet is a nice target late, especially if you fade tight end.
Yeah, I always do. And honestly, like the tight, if you pay attention, nobody pays attention to tight end. So if you actually pay attention to tight end, it's not that difficult to stream it and put together a low end tight end one season. Even in a half PPR, I streamed. I think I started the season with Tyler Higbee as the tight end that I ended up drafting. And in the beginning of the season, he didn't know who did I think I took Cole Kmet as my tight end that I ended up drafting. I waited, and I still ended up the tight end that I streamed together on a points per game basis ended up being tight end 8. So it's possible if you do it. If you do
it's
it
absolutely
right,
possible.
Pay attention to it.
It's absolutely possible. So last but not least, the last guy I want to talk to you about, he's a rookie tight end, and we always say do not draft rookie tight ends, but he's going around 15.8 to be exact. Trey Mcbride. Trey McBride is like a good Pat Freiermuth. Okay, so if you guys were happy with Pat Freiermuth's rookie season, I think Trey McBride has that real upside. And if you fade the hell out of tight end, you go Cole Kmet as your tight end 1, and then you want to come back in round 15 and go get Trey McBride, I don't think that's the worst decision, because Trey McBride is going to be an NFL starter in year 1. He's probably going to go round 1. I think he's going to get the round 1 draft capital, and he's a really good player. So in round 15, you could do a hell of a lot worse, because you got Evan Ingram, Dan Arnold, David Njoku going around him, Irv Smith. Oh, I don't mind Irv, but we got to see it first, right? So if you absolutely whiff and you totally punt tight end, Trey McBride, middle of the 15th round, I think is an absolute steal there. So let's end it there, Mike.
90 Trey McBride, 95 passing grade from PFF. The man went for 1,125 yards this year.
He's a monster. He's an absolute monster, man.
In a COVID shortened 2020 season, Colorado State only played 4 games. He had 70% of his team's receiving yards.
Yeah,
like the offense went through this guy.
He had in 2021, his last season, he had a 34% target share. The man knows how to catch. He had 90 receptions on 134 targets, 1121 receiving yards, averaged 12.46 yards per reception, 34% target share, and a 67% catch down rate. He only had 1 touchdown, but fuck, man, that's variance. Those will come. I like Trey McBride.
If he played in the ACC or the SEC, he would be talked about the same way that Kyle Pitts had been talked about.
Ooh, that's bold. I like that. I love that. All right, brother. Okay, so final pick. Who you got winning the game tomorrow?
I'm going with Cincinnati. I have to. I think it's going to look like it's over at halftime. I don't think that McVay is going to make the adjustments like they never do. I think that the Cincinnati is going to make the adjustments. They're going to come back. Cincinnati is going to win on a field goal in overtime.
Man, special teams matter. They've mattered so much this playoff season. I keep going back and forth. Again, I think I'm going to be cheering for the Bengals, but I want a good game. You know what? Fuck it, Mike. Let's double down. I'm going to go officially. I'm locking in my pick. I'm going to go Cincinnati Bengals are going to win 27-24 against those LA Rams. Where do the good people find you? Hammer, baby. Where do the good people find you, Mike?
Find me on Twitter at Mike_Dickinson. Talking shit every single day. Of course, I'm Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. So for Mike, for Brandon, for Flex Matt, when he likes to show up, I'm Flex Shane, and we are the Flex Network.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody.